2:13 local time, Bandar Abbas, Iran. Brigadier General Farhad Nouri is studying a glowing operations map deep inside a hardened coastal command complex. In less than 14 minutes, everything he believes about control of the Strait of Hormuz will be shattered. 92 U.S. Army Rangers are already moving through the dark. This is how a decapitation raid begins. Outside, the night feels almost calm. Warm salt air rolls in from the Persian Gulf. Diesel fumes cling to the harbor. Sodium lights reflect off black water where patrol craft rock against their moorings. But Bandar Abbas is not just another port city. It sits beside one of the most important maritime choke points on Earth, the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow corridor through which a massive share of the world's energy traffic must pass. Whoever can threaten that strait can shake global markets before sunrise, and that is exactly why this place matters. The real geography is unforgiving. To the south, shipping lanes tighten. To the east, mountain ridge lines rise behind the coast. On the islands and shorelines around this region, Iran has long invested in layered anti-ship missiles, fast attack boats, drones, mines, radar sites, and dispersed naval infrastructure. Bandar Abbas serves as a central nervous node for that southern network. The harbor is crowded, the roads are narrow, the hills hide antennas, bunkers, and tunnel mouths. Imagine you're standing there right now. You hear generators humming behind concrete walls. You smell hot metal and seawater. You know this city is alive with cameras, checkpoints, militia posts, and armed men who believe the coast belongs to them. A few hundred miles away, real American power waits across the region. Al Udeid in Qatar, Al Dhafra in the UAE, U.S. naval forces beyond the Gulf, tankers, intelligence aircraft, stealth fighters, satellites, cyber teams, special operations crews. Quiet pieces on a board that looks still until it doesn't. Tonight, in this fictional scenario, Washington receives a warning too specific to ignore. Signals intelligence picks up encrypted traffic between southern IRGC naval elements and missile units near the coast. Thermal imagery shows unusual activity at storage bunkers. Drone feeds confirm convoy movement from inland depots toward launch points overlooking the strait. Then, the final piece drops into place. A courier carrying one-time launch authentication codes enters General Nouri's command compound. Analysts at Al Udeid put the picture together fast. This is not an exercise. This is a countdown. The Iranian plan, in this scenario, is brutally simple. Hit maritime traffic with a coordinated burst of anti-ship missiles, push drone swarms over the strait to overload defenses, seed fast mine-laying craft into commercial lanes, then dare the United States to escalate first. The objective isn't to defeat America in open war. The objective is shock, disruption, political leverage, spike oil prices, terrify insurers, prove that even a temporary stranglehold on Hormuz can force every capital from Washington to Tokyo to calculate differently by dawn. Nouri thinks the timing is perfect. He has 36 anti-ship missiles assigned across mobile batteries, 28 one-way attack drones prepared for launch, 14 fast inshore attack craft armed and fueled, and a bunker complex buried under concrete steel and layered security. He believes American commanders will do what they usually do first: watch, warn, posture, and strike from distance. He does not believe they will put boots inside Iran to snatch him alive. That, to him, feels too risky, too political, too precise. There's the flaw in his thinking. He assumes distance equals safety. He assumes hardened walls equal control. He assumes the Americans are choosing between doing nothing and launching a broad air campaign. What he doesn't account for is a third option, the most dangerous one of all: a short surgical strike designed not to destroy the machine first, but to seize its brain while it's still issuing orders. And he overlooks something else. The United States is not just watching the coast. It is watching the rhythm, radar activations, vehicle spacing, command net traffic, heat bloom from backup generators, the opening and closing cycle of blast doors, the human pattern behind the system. That is where modern warfare becomes terrifying, not in the loud moment, in the quiet moment before it, when one side already sees the whole board. At 2:16, the alert cascade begins. An SBIRS overhead sensor catches a heat signature spike consistent with missile prep. An RC-135 rivet joint orbiting beyond Iranian airspace confirms emissions from multiple southern command nets. MQ-9 surveillance feeds track guard rotations around the compound. A stealthy ISR platform deeper in the battlespace maps air defense gaps down to seconds. Then the mission cell at Al Udeid sends the decision brief upward. Time to target window, 11 minutes. Enemy launch threshold, assessed at under 2 hours. Opportunity to capture commanding officer alive, rapidly closing. Could you make that call? One man alive could unravel launch authorities, mine locations, fallback sites, reserve frequencies, the entire next 72 hours of escalation. Dead, he becomes a martyr. Captured, he becomes intelligence. Authorization comes fast, not for a full invasion, not for regime change, for a limited objective raid. Seize the commander, exploit the network, cripple immediate southern strike capability, then get out before Iran can mass a coherent response. Now you're there. You're strapped into the troop bay of an MH-47G Chinook from the 161st Special Operations Aviation Regiment. Red cabin lights, rotor vibration through your boots, sweat under body armor, nods down, rifle between your knees. The man across from you says nothing because there is nothing to say. 92 Rangers from the 75th Ranger Regiment are split across 4 inbound aircraft, with 2 MH-60M Blackhawks carrying command and sniper elements. Overhead, support is already moving. F-35 is drift into position to suppress radar threats. A-18G jamming begins to creep across the spectrum like static in the enemy's bloodstream. An AC-13OJ Ghost Rider waits outside the hot zone, its 30mm cannon and 105mm gun held in reserve. An MC-13OJ extends the mission's range and recovery options in the dark. At 2:19, the first defensive layer starts to die. Iranian radar crews see noise before they see danger. Screens fuzz, tracks flicker, comms distort. A coastal surveillance node east of Bandar Abbas loses coherent picture for 9 seconds. 9 seconds is forever in a raid like this. An F-35 releases precision-guided munitions onto a mobile air defense vehicle near the harbor perimeter. Another stealth jet kills a second radar emitter tucked against a ridgeline. No dramatic fireball for the public, just sudden blindness. Counted. Minute 1. 2 radar nodes degraded. Minute 2, 1 short-range SAM launcher destroyed. Minute 3, electronic warfare severs local command coordination. That timeline tells its own story. Inside the compound, guards know something is wrong, but not what. The lights don't fail. The walls still stand. No citywide bombardment. No obvious invasion. Just a creeping collapse in awareness. That is how a calculated operation works. It doesn't announce itself. It subtracts your options one by one. Then comes Layer 2. Along the waterfront, 6 IRGC fast attack boats attempt to sortie from their moorings, likely to scatter, survive, and perhaps respond to what their commanders still think might be a limited strike offshore. They never get clear. Armed overwatch and maritime fires catch them in sequence. 1 burns at the dock, 2 drift disabled, 3 are shredded before they can add speed. The harbor, seconds ago a possible escape route, becomes wreckage and black smoke. Now, from the enemy's view, the picture turns surreal. No sirens loud enough, no map accurate enough. 1 unit reports drones, another reports helicopters, and another swears the Americans are still out at sea. Every report arrives late. Every commander asks for confirmation. Every request goes upward into a command chain that is about to be cut out at the root. At 2:22, the Rangers cross the shoreline. The flight profile is brutal and fast. Nap of the earth, low over black water. Then inland, threading terrain, hugging darkness, using the confusion window created by jamming and precision fires. If you're in that lead cockpit, this is the hardest kind of flying there is. No margin, no headline if it goes right. Just one mistake, and the mission ends in flame. Ground perimeter security reacts at the last possible moment. A sentry catches rotor noise and turns too late. Suppressed fire drops the outer tower. Breach teams move before the dust settles. 1 Ranger stack hits the communications annex. Then another secures the motor pool. A third cuts the route to the underground bunker entrance. The 4th isolates the barracks and guard reserve. This is not a battle in the old sense. It is controlled violence applied at exact pressure points. Flashbangs crack through concrete corridors. Steel doors buckle under breaching charges. IRGC guards inside the administration wing try to form a defense line and are hit from 2 directions in less than 20 seconds. 1 hallway, then the next, then the stairwell. Speed becomes its own weapon. Running tally now. Outer towers neutralized. 4. Vehicle checkpoint positions overrun. 3. Communications nodes seized or destroyed. 5. Guard force isolated before coherent counterfire. Approximately 40. And still, the key question remains. Where is Nouri? A signals exploitation team inside the compound picks up an internal transmission routed through a hardened line beneath the main operations building. Thermal feeds show a cluster of bodies descending one level below the central chamber. There. That's the move. That's the pattern. General on the run, but not gone. At 2:24, the bunker fight begins. This is the moment every planner fears. Above ground, stealth, surprise, and confusion dominate. Underground, all of that compresses into brutal close quarters. Tight corners, concrete dust, echoing gunfire, no room for error, heart pounding. In this fictional scenario, this is where the mission either becomes a legend or a disaster. Rangers hit the blast door with a frame charge. It fails but doesn't fully clear. A second team pushes a thermal lance into the lock assembly. Sparks, smoke. It metals screaming. An Iranian officer inside shouts for local defenders to hold the corridor. Too late. The breach opens just enough for grenades, then bodies. Room by room, the complex collapses. A security cell is taken in 8 seconds. An operations room in 12. A server bay in 14. One commander reaches for burn bags and hard drives, but a ranger fires first, dropping him over the very intelligence he was trying to destroy. Then comes the final chamber. General Farhad Nouri is not standing dramatically at a map table. He is moving fast, flanked by 2 bodyguards, 1 signals officer, and a colonel clutching a satchel of code material. That is what real panic looks like. Not speeches. Motion. He is trying to reach an emergency exit tunnel running toward the hillside beyond the compound. He never makes it. A ranger team cuts him off at the cross corridor while another seals the rear. Lasers flick across smoke. Commands are shouted in Persian and English. One bodyguard raises his rifle and is dropped instantly. The second hesitates, then goes to the floor. The signals officer bolts and slams into a wall under a tackle. The colonel tries to destroy the satchel. A ranger rips it away. And Nouri, the man who believed the night belonged to him, is alive. Captured alive in less than 6 minutes from first boots on target. Read that again in your mind. 6 minutes. Less time than it takes most people to make coffee in the morning. But the mission isn't over, not even close. Because once the general is secured, the Americans now face the most dangerous phase of any raid, the exfiltration under a widening enemy reaction. At 2:27, Magar regional IRGC units finally understand what is happening. Not a distant strike, not a bluff, a penetration, a live capture. That realization detonates across the Southern Command Network. Nearby units begin mobilizing toward Bandar Abbas. Manpads teams scramble. Reserve guards pour toward the compound. Pickup-mounted heavy guns race through industrial streets. A mobile missile element inland receives a launch or scatter order. This is where bad nights become historic ones. Washington and CENTCOM escalate immediately. Counterattack authorization expands from raid support to theater suppression of all identified launch-capable nodes tied to the imminent Hormuz operation. The goal is no longer just extraction. It is future capability denial. And now the full weight of integrated power arrives. F-35. Strike 2 additional air defense positions outside the city. Carrier-based aircraft hammer coastal missile revetments. Tomahawk cruise missiles arc in from destroyers beyond the horizon, slamming into fuel depots, comm relay stations, and known storage bunkers linked to the planned maritime attack. An AC-130J rolls closer once the immediate air defense picture is thinned, using its 30mm to chew apart truck columns and its 105mm to break a reinforcement choke point at the edge of the industrial district. One round, then another, then another. The road simply stops existing as a route. Inside the target compound, the Rangers move fast and methodically. Sensitive site exploitation teams bag drives, maps, handheld radios, satellite phones, targeting tablets, printed code sheets, and hard copy minefield overlays. Wounded are triaged. MICE prisoners zip-tied. Demolition charges placed on select rooms that cannot be carried out but cannot be left intact. Could Iran still hit the Strait after this? Maybe somewhere, somehow, with surviving assets. But not on the timeline they planned. Not with the same coordination. Not with their Southern Command spine ripped out in one night. The numbers become savage now. Their 36 planned anti-ship missiles face 118 American precision weapons directed across the first suppression wave. Their 28 drones lose launch control nets before most clear the ground. Their 14 fast attack boats are reduced to a handful of shattered hulls and burning slips. Their command bunker, designed to survive bombardment, is defeated by 92 Rangers and minutes of controlled violence. For every one of their assumptions, there is a harder American answer already in motion. At 2:31, extraction begins. Two Chinooks land inside the compound perimeter, while the other two hold offset positions for rapid loading. Rotor wash drives dust and paper through the wrecked courtyard. The Blackhawks cover the outer arc. Snipers scan rooftops. A ranger drags a prisoner with a black hood and bound wrists toward the ramp. That hood covers the single most valuable man in southern Iran at that moment. Enemy fire intensifies. A technical with a heavy machine gun appears at the north gate and is shredded by the AC-130 before it completes a burst. A shoulder-fired missile launches from a rooftop and misses wide as countermeasures bloom. Small arms tracers start climbing into the sky from 3 separate blocks. One Chinook takes light damage but stays flyable. A ranger on the perimeter goes down, then gets hauled aboard by 2 teammates who refuse to leave him. This is where discipline matters more than drama. No one chases, no one lingers, no one tries to turn success into spectacle. The point of a surgical strike is not to stay and admire the cut. It is to close the wound behind you and disappear before the body understands what was removed. At 2:34, the aircraft lift. Bandar Abbas for a moment looks like a city trying to wake up inside a nightmare. Smoke at the harbor, fires along the approach road, intermittent detonations from targeted depots, emergency vehicles moving without direction, commanders shouting into dead networks. The entire southern response cycle is stuck between anger and confusion. The Americans are already gone, but the broader response keeps rolling. Follow-on strikes hit 3 missile support facilities, 2 drone preparation warehouses, 4 communications relay nodes, and multiple command vehicles fleeing inland. A B-52H operating from farther out in theater contributes standoff fires against fixed storage areas identified during the exploitation window. Additional naval and air assets repositioned to deter wider retaliation. Mine countermeasure forces begin preparing for the possibility that some maritime threat elements survive. Tankers flow. ISR remains overhead. The raid is over. The campaign posture is not. By sunrise, the picture is clearer. In 42 minutes from breach to final suppression wave, the operation has completely rewritten the local balance. 92 Rangers inserted, 1 senior IRGC commander captured alive, 1 command complex rendered inoperable, 5 communications nodes seized or destroyed inside the base, 3 coastal radar and air defense elements neutralized before they could organize a coherent response, 6 fast attack boats destroyed at or near harbor, multiple missile and drone support sites hit in follow-on strikes. American losses in this fictional scenario, limited, but real enough to remind you that even precision has a price. Iranian immediate strategic result, total failure, and that is the part that matters most. Because modern war is not always decided by who has more men in a city, more flags on a map, or louder speeches on television. Sometimes it comes down to who sees first, decides faster, integrates better, and acts before the other side can even agree on what is happening. That is the lesson here. Not brute force alone, not technology alone, integration. Information dominance, training disciplined enough to turn seconds into advantage and advantage into collapse. Iran, in this scenario, built a coastal network around missiles, boats, bunkers, and geography. The United States answered by attacking the seams between them. The radar picture, the command timing, the exits, the backups, the human confidence at the center of the machine. That is why the general is worth more alive than dead. In the hours that follow, every phone in his pocket, every code in that satchel, every name on those bunker rosters, every map recovered from that command room becomes leverage. Planned attacks get unraveled. Hidden launchers become targets. Safe houses become liabilities. Entire cells go quiet because one man who thought he was untouchable ends the night in flex cuffs on a helicopter floor. And think about the psychological shock. If you are an IRGC regional commander watching this unfold, what are you feeling? Rage, yes, but also doubt. If they reached him there, behind those walls, under that mountain of concrete, what exactly is safe anymore? That is deterrence in its sharpest form. Not a speech, a demonstration, a calculated one, a surgical one, a message delivered in rotor wash, static, and 6 minutes of violence underground. So which decision was most critical? The fast authorization, the electronic blinding of the coast, the choice to capture instead of kill? Debate below. Hit subscribe for in-depth military breakdowns.